Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all another Future Card Buddyfight deck profile for January 2020. Wanted to do a deck profile on the Tyrant deck for Danger World. It's a really awesome deck. It's a deck used by Ryuga Aragami in the Buddyfight Triple D anime, and this is one that he actually got more support for in the Soaring Ascent booster pack in the form of a new item and a new form of Cerberus for the deck. Definitely does help with the overall pressure and the initial point of the deck, which is to increase the critical of your Cerberus on the field and also just hit for heavy attacks with your item and also gain life in the process with all the different cards we run in the deck. It's a really awesome deck. It's actually my girlfriend Marissa's deck that she let me borrow for a deck profile. Wanted to do more Future Card Buddyfight. Figured we do some deck profiles that are associated with some of the characters from the anime, but really awesome deck for sure. Hopefully we can get some reprints later on in the future as well, just like with the recollection for some other cards in the deck, which I'll show what to replace for a couple of them for a specific spot in the deck. But let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for our buddy for the deck, I decided to use Jet Black Typhoon, Tyrant Cerberus. This is from the new Soaring Ascent booster pack, and with this card I decided to run 4 of it in the deck as well, being your main Cerberus to go into. With this one, when this card enters the field, equip up to 1 Tyrant item from your deck by paying its equip cost and shuffle your deck. Then you gain 1 life, and it just helps for the life gain because you can use it for going out your main weapon, which is Searing Fang Spear Axe Kijin Demon Slay with a critical 4 and a power 7000, which we'll get to when we go over the items. With this one also having a counter skill during your attack phase, call up to 1 monster with Cerberus in its card name other than Jet Black Storm Tyrant Cerberus, which was actually the original name for this card. So you basically can't call itself with this from your deck by paying its call cost and shuffle your deck. You may only use this ability once per turn. So after you attack with this Cerberus, you can easily call out another one onto the field. And the one I most of the time like to go for is Tyrant Elgar Cerberus. This is the one from Buddy Lineage. With a call cost, put this card on top of a monster on your field and pay 1 gauge. All Tyrant monsters on your field get plus 3000 power and critical +1 and penetrate. When a weapon on your field attacks, you gain 2 life. Then if that weapon has 4 more critical, you gain 3 life. So with this card also having double attack, you can initially gain 10 life since your Kijin Demon Slay already has 4 critical at its base critical power. So you can easily not have to increase it with any other cards and then just make use of Elgar Cerberus for the attack with that card. It's usually your go-to card with Tyrant Cerberus as well in the deck. So it's my main reason I like to rely on having a full set of this as well in the deck, but mostly I like to focus on Jet Black Typhoon Cerberus as my buddy just because it's the one I usually call out the most. I do have one more option for a Cerberus call in the deck in the form of Ghost Deity Armor Knight Cerberus. With this one, it's not a Tyrant, so just remember that, but still able to be called out with the Tyrant Cerberus Jet Black Typhoon since it has Cerberus in its card name, and just overall good pressure with its Soul Guard and triple attack. With this one, put 1 or more monsters from your field into its soul and pay 2 gauge. You may put another monster from your field into this card's soul. If you do draw a card, you may only use this ability once per turn. And choose a monster from your opponent's field, and you may drop a soul from this card. If you do, destroy the chosen card, and for this turn, this card gets triple attack. It's a counter skill as well, so you can use it on your opponent's turn, just with the soul buildup you have with this card as well. Also having the move ability gives it pretty good defense overall to stop some of your opponent's attacks. But going back and forth, this is more of the defensive Cerberus, while Tyrant Elgar Cerberus, while also being offensive, can be defensive with you gaining the 10 life with this card. So very useful as long as you have your items set up for the Tyrant cards in the deck as well. And then for more of a power card, I also run 4 Cerberus Violent Gazer. This is your impact monster in the deck with its call cost being pay 2 gauge. Put a Tyrant monster from your field into your drop zone. This card gets critical equal to the critical of a weapon on your field. So being able to gain 4 critical with your item, which is the Kijin Demon Slay. Just has a pressure 4 and attack on this card, being 8 critical. So as long as you clear the center and hit against your opponent, this card could basically be your initial game-winning card, just for being able to easily call it out with the gauge you can build up, and then just putting a Tyrant on your field into the drop zone. Size 2, so you can have some size 1 monsters on the field as well and not have to lose out on them. I just like to run the 4, so you also have plenty of options with this, and just drawing it into your hand for that impact call onto the field. For some of the other additional monsters, I run 4 Tyrant Ogre. Its call cost is pay 1 gauge, 5,000 power, 1,000 defense, critical of 2. Good size 1 to have on the field just as backup to Cerberus. If you have 5 life or more, this card gets penetrate. And when this card attacks, if you have 5 life or less, deal 1 damage to your opponent. So a good card just to clear out the center for your Cerberus attacks, especially your impact monster. And then also just being able to have the penetrate when your life is, if you have 5 or more life, which can easily be done with the Cerberus in the deck as well. Just an easy pay 1 gauge cost definitely does come in handy. I also run 4 Tyrant Statue. When this card attacks, if you have 6 life or more, put the top card of your deck into your gauge. If you have 3 life or less, you gain a life. So with the life gain especially, but it's also just a free call out to the field, and also just being able to build up gauge. If not, you can attack with this card until your life is high enough to build up gauge, but otherwise it'll just help to gain you life especially. And one last one, now with Valken, I have 3 of this card. I probably want to run Tyrant Jin instead, just really good comboing off with the weapon in the deck, but I have Valken in here for now. When it enters the field on the left or right, you may pay 1 gauge if you do gain 1 life. Kind of an earlier game card, but I would say Tyrant Jin would be a great replacement for this one in the deck, just more usable with the item and the life gain especially, so that spot would probably be taken up for this one here. And we've spoken enough about the item in the deck. We'll go ahead and show it. I run 4 Searing Fang Spear Axe Kijin Demon Slay. Its equip cost is put a hand card into its soul and pay 3 life. So you don't have to use any gauge, but it's got Soul Guard to protect it. And also, if a Tyrant monster is on your field, Tyrant on your field cannot be destroyed or arrested by your opponent's card effect. So with the Tyrants being the main focus in the deck, the only thing that would not benefit from it is the Armor Knight Cerberus, but everything else can still be protected with your Kijin Demon Slay. And when you gain life, if a Tyrant monster is on your field, destroy a card on your opponent's field and draw a card. This ability only activates once per turn, which you easily gain life with plenty of other cards in the deck. So very easy to make use of this and destroy your opponent's cards. It also has double attack, so being able to hit for 8 damage in total alone with this card also, and just going a good turn first with this one is immense pressure against your opponent. But the pop effect, whenever you gain life, definitely does come in handy as well. And that is it for the monsters and the items. We will now move on to the spells. For the spells, I run 3 Invigorating Breath. Now, Kijong Wolf would probably be the spot here that I would take this card out for. It's just more of a pricey card that I know not everyone has access to. It's the card where you gain 2 life, then if the difference in life between you and your opponent is 4, you gain an additional 6 life, which definitely does help. But Invigorating Breath, you may only cast this if you have a weapon equipped, and if you do not have a monster in the center. Gain 4 life. The amount of life you gain is reduced by the number of Invigorating Breath in your drop zone. It's why I only run 3 in the deck, so I always have at least a slight life gain. I don't want it reduced to 1, then I feel it's not as worth it for just a 1 life gain. But if with all the life you use in the deck, especially for the equip cost for your Demon Slay and other cards, this one definitely does help with that. For some of our shield cards we run, I am running 3 Insanity Circle. You may only cast this card during attack on your opponent's turn if you do not have a monster in the center and you have a Tyrant on your field. Nullify the attack. If you do, gain 1 life. If you have a weapon equipped, this card cannot be nullified. So just a easy nullify of your opponent's attack, and you must always have a weapon equipped. Just a good way to protect yourself with this, especially against your opponent. And I also run 3 Survival Chance. With this one, pay 1 gauge. You may only cast this card if your life is 5 or less. Draw 2 cards. You may only cast Survival Change once per turn. Your life's always low in this deck until you gain it back up, but when you gain the life, it's usually only during the attack phase, so Survival Chance helps for, I think I called it Survival Change. Survival Chance just gives you more draw power for hand consistency. Once per turn, doesn't really matter. That's why I'm only running 3, so I at least always can see this card, but then I can always rely on it later on as well. And I also run 3 Contrition Healing. With this, you pay 1 gauge, put up to 1 Tyrant from your drop zone into your hand, and you gain 1 life. Then if you took damage during this turn, you gain 3 life. You may only cast Contrition Healing once per turn. More life gain. It helps you also to recycle Tyrants from your drop zone back into your hand just for paying 1 gauge, so you can recall out plenty of your different Cerberus monsters on the field to use as well. So very, very useful there. The best gauge builder in the deck, I would say especially, is Battle Aura Rampage. You pay as much life as you like. If you do, put cards on the top of your deck into your gauge equal to the number of life you paid. So you always have gauge to use with this card, and you can easily regain that life back with your Cerberuses on the field. So remember that with this card, just potentially being able to fill up 8 to 9 gauge without having to completely whittle away your life, knowing you're at least going to regain it is what I recommend with this card. And I also run 3 Battle Aura Circle. You nullify the attack. You only cast this card for your opponent's turn. You now have a monster on the center. Just a generic shield against your opponent. And when you want your Cerberus attacks to land, I run 2 Fang Dragon Declaration. You pay 2 gauge and 1 life. Nullify the spell cast by your opponent. You may only cast this when only 1 card on the field is attacking when your opponent casts a spell. So if your opponent tries to use a shield, use this to stop them, and then have your Cerberus attack go through. And then to finish off the deck, just the one of, since it's a once per game card, I run 1 Return to Hades. You may only cast this when your life would become 0. Pay 3 gauge for this turn. The next time your life becomes 0, your life becomes 1 instead. You may only cast this once per game. That's why I only like to run the 1. It comes in handy during those times, just as long as you have the gauge to use it. So remember that as well. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy. If you have any other requests for character decks you'd like to see for the game, I'm definitely taking recommendations. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.